Hi, I'd like to welcome you to our Mountain Hooves and Paws Dog Communication Signals webinar. And here we'll be talking about how we can learn more about what our dogs are saying to us with their visual signals. First, how do dogs communicate? Okay. As humans, we're still in the learning process of understanding how our dogs communicate. We know that dogs communicate via vocally, via scent, telepathically, and visually. Dogs are communicating with us all the time. Sometimes they're reacting to a situation, and sometimes they're initiating a conversation with us. In this short course, we'll focus on communications that are so fascinating, where our dogs are initiating communication with us and deliberately asking something of us. Examples of communication are how they vocally communicate. And of course, that could be howling, barking, whining. Telepathically, they're communicating with us, and that actually relies on us being able to receive what they're saying. That's also known as intuitive communication, and it's been used extensively to understand dog choices, health, and general behavior. We also have scent, and that could be via urine or pheromones or feces. It's another fascinating area, tons left to learn. And finally, what we'll be covering today, which is visually. So why are we going to focus on visual signals today? The first reason is they're available and easy for us to learn. They're easy because they're pretty much straightforward across the board. What we see in one dog is going to be the same for other dogs. This is why it's a universal language with them. They give us immediate feedback into our dog's emotional state, and I'm sure you already can list a lot of visual signals that our dogs give us that tell us whether they're happy, scared, excited. Visual signals are probably, it's hard to say because there's a lot of research that needs to be done still, but they are probably the number one way that they communicate with us and others. So because they're so natural, there's less frustration on the dog's part when we start to really understand them. Finally, they allow the dogs to feel in control of their lives, relax, and enjoy life. And this means that when we understand our dogs, they feel that there's a two-way communication going on and not just them learning what we'd like from them. Okay, so now we're going to look at specific examples of dog visual communication. Visual signaling happens when a dog uses their body language to communicate a feeling or request. So one example could be dog picking up an object like a tennis ball and using their body language to invite us to play. So there's nothing in their body language that says stay away or this is mine, I don't want you to touch it. This is soft eyes, ears perked, looking inviting. This dog is doing the opposite. They have an object in their mouth and they're telling the other being, whoever that is, who's out of the picture, to leave. So they're lifting their lips, they're showing their teeth, and they're doing something called a distance increasing signal. These two dogs are figuring out whether or not they're comfortable with each other and whether or not they should be getting closer and maybe even starting to play together or doing some kind of activity together. And this dog, even though we're not totally sure, might be doing a calming signal, which means they're turning their head away from the camera and requesting that whoever it is on the other side of the camera maybe take the camera further away or put the camera down and not have it focused on them. And calming signals are going to be what we focus on today. So calming signals are used by dogs to avoid conflicts. They're polite requests and communications to others, including us, other dogs, and other animals. So again, thinking about calming signals, they're polite requests. So they come before those distance increasing signals. They come before the growl, they come before the teeth showing, they come before barking or lunging at somebody else. They're just simple requests for us to maybe slow down and or back off or do something. Examples, a lip lick can often be a calming signal. Turning the head or looking away can be a calming signal. And perfect example here is when the dog is turning his or her head when the camera is pointed at her. Have you ever seen this? When you point your camera at your dog and they turn and look away, and you have to work very hard to have your dog look at the camera. And that's basically your dog saying, can you please focus somewhere else? I'm a bit uncomfortable with this camera focusing right at me. Sometimes you think the head turns are the dog just looking in another direction, but the more you train yourself to see the context of these head turns, the more you'll see whether it was an actual deliberate communication in your direction. Another calming signal is a yawn. And again, these are all contextual. Did you just do something that the dog is a little uncomfortable with? And do they feel they have to signal for you to possibly change what you're doing? And then this one I think is pretty interesting. This is something you can think about. The dog in the front, the beagle in the front, is doing two calming signals, which often happens. So the dog most likely did a few calming signals before this photo is taken, and they weren't working. So the dog's turning and walking away, which is a very strong calming signal. Like, please, leave me alone. Please don't follow me. I'm trying to avoid this conflict. And they're also dipping their head down. So when you see two calming signals at the same time, then you know that the dog is really, really trying as hard as they can to request that anybody else in the picture, please stop what they're doing. If the dog, just think about this. If the dog was really excited about the other dog following them, the head would be up, the ears would be perked, there would be a lot more prancing maybe. So we can tell right now that this dog is uncomfortable and trying to be polite. So again, remember that calming signals are to avoid conflict. And we believe they're the basis for understanding the dog. The term calming signals was coined by Norwegian dog trainer Turid Rugas. She is one of the first people to promote the understanding that dogs are actively communicating with others through signals and politely asking others to calm down their behavior. Until she came out with her research, many animal behaviorists and trainers did not believe dog signaling was intentional. They thought it was just a reaction to an event. So they thought that a dog yawned because somebody made them stressed, not they're asking somebody to calm down. Some still think, but this is getting very rare, that visual signals we see in dogs are only reactions still. But most people, through a lot of good research, have seen time and time again that dogs are deliberately calming down other dogs with these signals. So Turid came out with books, videos, and then also she started the Pet Dogs Trainers of Europe. It's a growing group in Europe focused on looking at dogs in total, instead of just focusing on behaviors when you're training. And this happened in 1998. It's growing strong. And just recently, Turid also worked on this greater understanding of dogs with her dog symposiums that she held in Norway for 5 years between 2015 and 2020. So if you want to learn more, here are lots of resources out there for you. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about now is a chance for you to identify some calming signals. So we have two dogs here in the very beginning of this video, and I'm just going to play a couple seconds of this video, and I'd like you to see if you can identify any calming signals and just write them down on a piece of paper, or try to remember what they are, and then I'll stop the video. Okay, so I was wondering what you saw here. So just give you a little second to write down anything that you saw. Okay, so one more time. Good. So if you looked closely, you saw 2 head turns from each dog at first. So the one dog gave a head turn, the other dog gave their own head turn, then it was repeated. And then the golden retriever dipped her head before she walked off. So she basically was saying to the border collie, yes, you can have that stick. So instead of having a conflict over the stick, these dogs resolved who could interact with the stick and a peaceful transfer of the stick from one dog to another, just using signaling, nothing else. There was no vocal, there was no marking or any scent. It was just using the body language. So just looking at that scenario, why don't we think about when dogs want to use these calming signals? So maybe a first time could be responding to shy dogs and helping them gain confidence. So because dogs are inherently carers of others, this is something we know. They're very social. They like everybody to get along. So when they see somebody who's scared or fearful, they want to help them feel better. Reassure others that everything is safe. That sort of is tied into number 1, but it can be done deliberately when you can just see this back and forth going on. And we sort of saw that a little bit in that video right before, like, okay, it's okay, you can take my stick, I don't mind. This would be something that we might see a lot from our dogs towards us, which is asking us to slow down, calm down, or stop. This is something where it's really important to identify calming signals if there are children around, because dogs will most likely give these calming signals first before they would growl at children or even snap. So, and definitely these should be happening before they ever even think of biting, but most dogs won't anyway, because they just don't go to that level. So the more you can identify these, head turns, lip licks, and all that, the better you can tell a child to back off, possibly because the dog's uncomfortable. You also hear them say no thank you or not yet. So it's a very direct, like if you go to take a picture, no thank you, I'd prefer you didn't take that picture, or not right now. And finally, to avoid a conflict over a resource, which is the video that we just saw. So here's a video that I put together a while back that showed our older dog, Laddie, who is a real carer of other dogs, helping out a blind dog, her name is Roxy, to feel comfortable when he brings a stick in from the shore. And there's a narration that comes with this video, so I'll let that happen. You'll see Laddie start by doing a head turn and a little calming curving to help Roxy. And she does really well. She just moves away from him as he's coming to shore with his stick. And that's a pretty high level of excitement, and she's doing very, very well. She's now going to work on some sniffing, and she knows that will help Laddie stay and engage her. He's doing some lip licking and some head turning and a head dip there. And then she's doing her head turns back and forth and a little lip lick too and a head dip. So she's really learning from him how to communicate. And then she did a little head dip there. And all this is just so she can feel comfortable in his space and understand that he's a dog who she can feel safe with. Okay, so that was a great example of a dog helping out another dog. Now I'm going to show you a picture of how dogs might reassure that all is safe And again, we tend to see this head dip as sort of a reassurance, like it's okay to go forward. I'm fine with the fact that you're watching me. Everything's okay. So you'll see the dog on the right. And if you look at their body language closely, you'll see the ears are back. So there's a little tightness. The mouth is closed shut. So that's also a little sign that they're nervous. It might not be a calming signal per se, but it might just be like, hey, I'm a little uncomfortable. And then the eyes tend to be sort of open, where you might see something called a whale eye, where you might see the whites of the eyes, which are in combination of everything else, an issue that shows that the dog could be a little fearful. So the border collie on the left is using a signal to calm down this dog, and she's doing a head dip, which is also looks like sniffing, and she's just keeping her body really soft, and she's not focusing on the other dog, but maybe this dog came up and was a little worried about her, and so she stayed still and did her head dip and just said, everything's okay. And you will see this fairly often. Here's a quick video. I won't show you everything. This is the very beginning of, yet again, our wonderful dog, Laddie, who is helping out this puppy learn that not all dogs want to play with puppies. So I'll start the video and you can just see a couple minutes of all his, and I'll narrate for you, all his various, oh yeah, and I should turn the video off here. All his various calming signals. So you can see again, he's doing head turns.
He just did a little calming signal.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to talk over myself a little here. Puppy's being sort of nice, and they did a nice little sniffing.
So Laddie did a calming signal there.
Oh, he's turning away, walking away, and the puppy just wants to keep on playing.
So she's totally comfortable.
Sorry about this.
His tail is always so attractive.
So there you just keep on seeing Laddie's trying really hard, but he's not escalating. So he's choosing to teach the puppy, because puppies need to learn that not all adults want to play with them. And so he's going to try for the next 5 minutes to just keep on doing these nice calming signals. Eventually he lies down, he does head dips, he turns his head away, he yawns and licks his lip. And eventually the puppy goes and plays, which is really awesome. So it was a good lesson. Another thing that happens are, an example of a dog that we saw earlier where they're just saying, no, thank you, not yet, or slow down. So we saw this earlier where the head turn is very common. We've seen people in lessons put up their hand like this to say stay, and the dog will do a head turn. So they're not liking that cue. It's a little too confrontational. So again, we might just have the person lift their hand a little bit farther down at their waist. And you can just look at the reaction. Like at some point, the dog's not going to turn their head if you keep trying, and then that can be your signal. So you have a little compromise. Like, I still want to put my hand up for a stay, but I realize that up here is too much. So is it okay if I put it down here? And the dog will let you know. Pretty fun. And finally, what we talked about a little earlier was this potential, avoiding a conflict over a stick. And I also want to tell you that there's a second half to this video. And in this video, there's another resource that the dogs are going to try to have to sort out and make sure there's no conflict. What we'll see is Jean intervening a little bit to help the conflict be avoided, especially because our border collie Britta tends to be a little bit more of a, we can't totally trust that she's going to just stay with her calming signals. She might get a little barky or growly if she gets animated. So I'll just play the beginning again, and we'll just go a little further so you can just practice looking at those earlier signals. Now something's on the bench, and Britta figured that out, the border collie. You see that? So she's saying that she'd like that golden not to come close to that sandwich. So Gene did a really nice, he did something called splitting.
Oh, was she really? Oh my gosh.
Yep, he just told me about the sandwich. Now look at the golden continuing to do head dips. So she's reassuring Britta that she's not going to take the sandwich, but
Hey,
she's
Britt.
sort of
Good
trapped.
girl.
So she's trapped over in the corner, and you see her, she just continues to do the head dips, like, I'm not going to take that sandwich. So a little quick action by Gene to do some splitting, which again is another calming signal, help them avoid a conflict over a resource, which could have been, as we all know, somebody could have really gotten into the guarding and decided to fight off another dog when there was that type of standoff. So there's a little tension, but the golden was really good, kept on reassuring the border collie that she wasn't going to take it. And then when Jean split and sort of said, I'll take care of this sandwich, the border collie was able to walk away. But the golden felt a little trapped, so she kept on doing her calming signals. Okay, so I just thought I'd ask you a couple of questions before we finish and see if you can answer these on your own, and then I'll give you the answer, of course. So what are the most common calming signals you saw in these previous photos and videos? Was it a lip lick, paw lift, which is a calming signal, or the head turn? And let's give you a couple seconds. And if you answered C, the head turn, that's the most common one we saw. You saw Laddie do it quite a bit with the deaf dog and the puppy, and then you saw both the golden and Britta use that primarily in the beginning, and also in combination with the head dip, which I would say would be the second one. And then another question and answer, why do dogs use calming signals in the first place? So I'll just give you a little time to think about what you saw in those videos and photos. So the first potential answer, reassuring others that all is safe. B, to avoid potential conflicts. C, to say no thanks or slow down, please. D, all of the above. I'll just wait a little bit. And if you answered D, all of the above, you're correct. And you're welcome to go back in this video and see, of course, review some of the stuff we talked about. So thank you very much for attending this webinar. As you know, this is just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg when it comes to learning about dog communication, calming signals, especially why we sort of covered why they're using them, but we certainly didn't go through the list of calming signals. I highly recommend that you get Turid Ruas's book, Calming Signals, or even her videos, because they'll go through the calming signals and you'll see multiple examples of dogs, and especially when you get to see dogs in a group. We have a couple of their webinars coming up that will cover other aspects of the calming signals, such as, how to help out dogs when you see the calming signals happen and you might see your dog give calming signals. What do you do if somebody else's dog doesn't listen to what your dog's saying, or vice versa? If your dog's not listening to other dogs' calming signals, what do you do? Is it possible to teach dogs calming signals? And then we'll also talk about, at some point, the distance increasing signals. So what happens when nobody pays attention to these calming signals? So I hope you enjoyed the webinar, and please feel welcome to contact us at mountainhoofspaws@gmail.com, or just go to our website, mountainhoofspaws.com. Have a great day. Thanks.